Hi, Jeff from Hybrid Automotive. Today we're going to show you how to use your ProlongPro Thunderbolt battery repair system to perform a repair and reconditioning of a hybrid battery with a failed cell and other weak cells within modules that may fail in the future. This video assumes that you've already set up your ProlongPro app, ProlongPro Thunderbolt system, charger and discharger, that they're connected to each other and also connected to the internet, that they've downloaded the latest software versions, and that you've entered your software license key and the ProlongPro app has been fully activated. The first step is to create a file in the ProlongPro app, selecting the Start New Battery Service option. As you can see, it will start with the date, as well as entering the customer's name. Then the technician can select the vehicle make, the vehicle model, and model year. From that information, the app will know the correct size hybrid battery being serviced. Lastly, the vehicle mileage. It's ideal to get all of this information correct, because at the end of the service, when you're presenting the results report to the customer, this information will be at the top of their custom report. Now that we've created a record in the ProlongPro app for this battery, the next step is going to be to record the serial numbers of the individual modules in the battery pack. When doing Toyota vehicles, there's a QR code on the top of each module, which correlates to the serial number printed on the top of the module. And by using the included QR scanner, we can very quickly and easily capture those serial numbers into our app so that we can link the data to the specific module. We also give you the option for manual serial number entry if you're working on modules that don't have a QR code or serial number, or you have your own module indexing system. So the way to do that is to press the Record Module Serial Number button, and it will prompt you, which module serial number do you want to record? One thing that's worth noting is that all batteries, module number 1 is where the low or black wire connects to the battery. So the red positive wire connects to the top of the battery at your highest module number, and the black or ground or low side or negative wire connects to module number 1, and then you can count up from there. So in this case, that's this first module right here. So we're going to select module number 1 within the app, and then again we have that option for manual. We're going to select scan, and now the app says go ahead and scan your QR code. So I'm going to do that now. And as you can see there, it's recorded now that module serial number. Now we have the option to record the next module if we made a mistake and we want to rescan the most recent one that we've done, or we can clear them all and start over. Another nice feature is if we go and we scan the next module, which I say yes, and again we want to enter it via scanning, if I record the same module serial number a second time, like I just did, you'll notice that it appears in red, and that's telling you, hey, this is a duplicate. So in this case, we may want to rescan that last module, which I'll go ahead and select, and this time I'll scan module number 2, and you can see there, now it is correctly black in text, indicating that it is no longer a duplicate. And so we can just go ahead and press yes, and we want to scan, and we can walk through the battery and quickly record every single module QR number. All right, so now we've recorded the serial numbers of all of the modules. The next thing we can do with a ProlongPro app is record the resting voltage or open circuit voltage for each module. This way, if there's any cells that have an internal short and are shorted out, we'll very easily be able to identify them and mark those modules for replacement. For this, you just can't beat a simple multimeter, and we're going to lay that on there and measure the voltage of each module. In this case, the first module is 8.01 volts, and we can easily enter that into the app. This is not required, but this is a great way to capture those open circuit voltages and record them for the battery. So I'll add a few here just to complete the data set. Okay, So now we've recorded the open circuit voltage or resting voltage of all the modules in the battery pack. And as we can see on the data, there's a couple modules that I would mark for replacement. For example, module number 6. It's around 1.2 volts below the average or the majority of the other modules. This tells me right away that one of the cells in that module has an internal short and is creating 0 volts when it should be creating around 1.2, 1.3 volts. So that one is definitely bad and needs to be replaced. In addition, module number 10 is a little bit low, and so I might just watch that one a little more closely as we proceed through the testing. The next step is to perform internal resistance testing of each of the modules within the battery pack. And to do this, we're going to utilize the single module internal resistance testing capabilities of the ProlongPro discharger being controlled by the ProlongPro app. This allows us to apply a 60 amp load to each individual module for 15 seconds and quickly evaluate its ability to withstand the high amperage draw. Any module that has high internal resistance is going to quickly be able to be identified and replaced. So one tip to do this, because our harness does have polarity, positive and negative, is to do all of your odd numbered modules first, so that way you can run down every other on the battery quickly. The app will work with that, no problem. Then flip them and do your even modules, again recording every other in the app. But to start with, we're going to test module number 1. I'll go ahead and connect the wires. And just as a side note, the torque specification on these module end nuts is 48 inch-pounds. Very, very low torque. So we want to highly recommend you get a small torque wrench that has 48 inch-pounds somewhere in the middle of its range, so that you're not over torquing these. It's very easy to damage them, and then they leak acid and the module is ruined. So we're going to go ahead and connect to this first module, just like so. We'll begin by selecting which module we want to test. In this case, we're going to test module number 1. So it will ask us to begin test on module number 1. Once you've confirmed that your wires are connected, go ahead and select yes to begin the test. The test takes approximately 30 seconds to complete. Once the test is complete, the ProlongPro app will display the test results. It will show you the internal resistance of the module, the raw voltage drop over the duration of the test, as well as your starting and ending voltage. With one quick tap of the Save to Module Record button, it records all this data to that module and prompts you for the next module. At this point, you can move your wiring to the next module and begin the next test. Now that we've completed the internal resistance testing, we can go through and do our first evaluation of the data, looking at modules with excessive internal resistance or internal short circuits in the battery and replace them. And that's done by disassembling the battery, identifying those modules, marking them for replacement, and then replacing them. So after completing the internal resistance test and open circuit voltage or resting voltage tests, and replacing the modules that are clearly bad within the battery, the next step is to begin the reassembly of the battery to prepare for module capacity testing. And so to do that, we're going to reinstall the bus bars. We have them partially reinstalled here already, along with the Prolong car harness, which is connected to the battery. We're going to connect the Prolong car harness to the back of the Thunderbolt system. Next, we'll install the battery temperature monitoring harness. This is how the Thunderbolt system monitors the battery, so it's very important that this is installed. If it's not installed, the system will give you an error and will not complete the test. The small temperature sensing probes can be inserted into the battery between any modules, generally in the center section of the battery, because they tend to be the warmest, so that the system can monitor the temperature of the battery. The next step is to take your module voltage monitoring harness and lay it across the battery. I like to connect it to the Thunderbolt system first. This is harness A. And then we'll go ahead and begin the process of connecting the individual module voltage monitoring taps. So all of your even numbers are going to go on one side and your odd numbers are going to go on the other side. So it's a nice kind of tip to take these and to tie them off as your evens and your odds. This harness doesn't have that, so we'll go ahead and do it the hard way today. So the first module, the ground on module number 1, is actually going to be monitored by the black ground in the Prolong car harness. So for module number 1, voltage monitoring, that is going to go to the positive side of the first module. So I'll put a nut on here just to kind of get that started. And then the next one is going to be number 2. And number 2 is going to go to the positive side of module number 2. In this case, that is right here. And as long as we're only touching one module end cap at a time, there's no real significant risk of electrical shock. But if you have any doubt or concerns, we highly recommend wearing the high voltage insulating gloves. I'm only touching the battery in one place at a time, so I'm going to go ahead and do it without the gloves. And we'll just repeat this process all the way through the battery. All right, so we've completed the connections of the individual module voltage monitoring wires. The last step is going to be to lower our safety cover. Make sure that the battery cooling table is powered on, and install the high voltage switch for the battery pack. Now we're ready to begin the capacity test. So within the ProlongPro app, you're going to navigate to the recondition screen, and then module voltage monitoring will be on by default. In this case, we do want it on. For the select reconditioning type, we're going to select module capacity test. We'll note that that pre-populates all the remaining fields on the screen. So we can go ahead and press start. What will happen now is the system will pre-charge the battery for 20 minutes or until any of the modules reaches 8.5 volts. Then it will terminate the charge and immediately begin discharging the battery and recording the capacity of each module all the way down to the first module reaching 6 volts. One nice feature is we can see in real time on our capacity screen the individual module voltages as the battery is being discharged. Being able to view the module voltages in real time has the benefit of allowing us to monitor progress of the entire battery at the module level, identify which modules drop out prematurely due to insufficient capacity. At that time, if desired, you can terminate the test and replace them, or just mark them to be ignored by the software and continue the test on the remaining modules within the battery pack. Once the capacity test is complete, we're going to analyze the data in the ProlongPro app, looking at the discharge curves for each module. Any module with insufficient capacity will have a discharge curve that drops off much earlier than the rest of the modules in the battery pack. Those modules have cells in them with insufficient capacity that need to be replaced. So you'll disassemble the battery again, remove the modules with low capacity, and replace them with acceptable substitutes. So now at this point, we think we have a good battery. We've tested for internal short circuits and replaced failed modules. We've tested for excessive internal resistance and replaced modules that have high internal resistance. And we've tested for capacity and replaced modules with low capacity. So we believe we have a battery that's ready to go. The next step is to begin to cycle that battery by charging and discharging. This has 3 important benefits. The first is we'll be able to equalize the voltage across all the cells within the battery pack. The pre-existing ones, the replacements, get them all to an equal level of voltage. Secondly is we'll break down the voltage depression and restore as much active material within the battery cells as possible, increasing their usable capacity. And thirdly, it will allow us to validate that the work we've done so far, the repair that we've done, is complete, and this is in fact going to be a battery that's ready to go back into service in the vehicle. And the way that we can do that to validate the repair is to look at the discharge graphs for each module set as we're cycling the battery. Each discharge curve is graphed in the app and allows you to look at that for each module and the entire battery to identify if there's any modules remaining that are substandard and still needing to be replaced. So to begin the pack cycling or reconditioning process, we're going to go into the ProlongPro app and navigate to the reconditioning menu. We're going to make sure that the individual module voltage monitoring is set to on, and then we're going to select from the different reconditioning type options. Dynamic cycling enables feedback from the exact battery that you're working on back to the Thunderbolt system so that it can adjust the charging and discharging curves to that exact battery. This is great for ensuring that the battery is being cycled as quickly as possible while still being safe and protecting it against any damage. If you're using the system on a battery that's installed in the car, that you do not have the individual module voltage connections, then you will want to select static reconditioning. And in that case, we'll use the pre-programmed algorithms within the charger and the discharger. The next is you'll select the number of charge and discharge cycles. We recommend for an initial servicing 3 discharge cycles minimum. For follow-on in-vehicle servicing, 2 is usually sufficient. And finally, the cell balancing time in hours. We give you the ability to select anywhere from 1 hour to 12 or 24 hours. We recommend a 2 to 4 hour cell balancing time. So you'll make your options, you'll make your selections, and then go ahead and begin the process. After each discharge, you can view the module discharge graphs to validate the repair that's been performed on the battery. And if needed, if you do identify any modules that are not performing up to expectations, you can pause or stop the process, replace those modules, and then restart the process. After the reconditioning process is complete, it's a good idea to review the data in the ProlongPro app, specifically looking at the module discharge curves to make sure that all the modules in the battery are discharging in a similar fashion. Once you're satisfied that the battery is performing well and is in good serviceable condition, you're done. The next step is to reinstall the battery pack into the vehicle along with a Prolong car harness. The harness is very important because it enables quick and easy ongoing servicing of the battery. Ongoing servicing of the battery, approximately once every 6 months, is important because that is what will ensure that the repair that you have performed lasts for the long term and you don't lose another cell or another module in the near future. The final task is to generate the results report for your specific customer. This is done in the ProlongPro app by navigating to the report button. If this is the first time generating the report, you're going to want to upload your store logo, as well as input your address, phone number, email, because all of this will appear at the top of the report. Then select which specific graphs you want included and generate the PDF report. This can be emailed to the customer or printed and presented to them when they're picking up the vehicle so that they can see tangibly the improvement that you have delivered to their vehicle and their hybrid battery pack. If you have any questions about the process, please feel free to give us a call at 800-589-0730 or email us at support@hybridautomotive.com. Thank you very much.